Your one click on the subscribe button makes a huge difference. Thank you for your kind support.
Mob Cops is an intense and deeply layered crime drama that explores the murky intersections of morality, guilt, and the consequences of systemic corruption. The film kicks off with a voiceover from retired NYPD Detective Tim Delgado, who has recently published a tell-all book detailing the deep and sinister connections between his own family and the mob. Delgado's voice sets the stage for the tension that will unravel between those who have crossed ethical boundaries to work for a ruthless crime boss and those within the police force intent on restoring justice and purging these corrupting influences from within. The first act introduces Delgado as a weary but insightful figure. Through flashbacks and interviews scattered throughout the movie, we learn about his traumatic upbringing in a neighborhood ruled by organized crime. Delgado paints a vivid picture of the gray moral terrain that many of his peers straddled, a world where being a bad guy or joining the police force often felt like two sides of the same coin. This context becomes instrumental in understanding how the cycle of corruption perpetuated itself, particularly within an institution like the NYPD, which was already entrenched in power dynamics that allowed moral weakness to spread like an infection. Delgado's voiceover provides commentary on how the allure of power, protection, and easy money blurred the line between justice and exploitation, turning fellow officers he once trusted into shadows of their former selves. At the heart of the movie lies the tension between Tim and Brock Benny Peretti, a powerful crime boss who has built his empire by not only bribing police officers to work for him but embedding them deeply into his operations. Peretti is portrayed in a chilling and nuanced performance by Jeremy Luke, who layers the character with a mix of charm and menace. The structure of Peretti's criminal network is revealed piece by piece, and it is terrifying in its meticulousness. Everything from routine police investigations to major mob hits is shown to be under his control, with corrupt officers ensuring that evidence disappears or that investigations don't go anywhere. The inciting incident of the movie occurs when Delgado's book is published, exposing years of Peretti's operations and naming former colleagues who were involved. The book is not just an act of catharsis for Delgado but also a grenade lobbed into the carefully constructed ecosystem of corruption. Delgado's decision to shine a light on these dark realities is framed as both an act of courage and one of desperation, a final attempt to find redemption for his own complicity in looking the other way during his career. Early in the film, Delgado admits in an interview that while he was never directly involved in illegal activities, he often turned a blind eye, rationalizing that rocking the boat wouldn't have been in his or his family's best interests. As Delgado's revelations ripple through the NYPD and the broader criminal underworld, the movie's second act turns into volatile chaos. Officers who have been named in the book are split into two camps, those who vehemently deny their involvement and those who are willing to go to extreme lengths to silence Delgado and protect Peretti's operations. Among them is Detective Frank Logan, played brilliantly by David Arquette, who serves as a complex and contradictory figure. Logan is both fascinating and horrifying to watch as his allegiances are never entirely clear. He exhibits flashes of humanity, trying to protect young rookies from falling into the same traps he did, but also demonstrates cold ruthlessness when it comes to covering his tracks. The tension between dirty cops and clean cops escalates further when Captain Ann Briggs, played by a fierce and unrelenting character actress, steps into clean house. Briggs, who has spent her entire career trying to combat the toxicity of corruption within her department, is portrayed as someone who is willing to play by the rules but unafraid to get her hands dirty when the situation demands it. Her clash with Peretti's embedded officers becomes one of the film's central conflicts. The movie smartly avoids casting her as a one-dimensional crusader. Instead, she is shown grappling with her own moral compromises, particularly when she faces pressure to bring Delgado into custody for interfering with an active investigation, a charge levied by some of the corrupt forces trying to undermine his efforts. One of the most emotionally devastating plotlines revolves around Bridget Hughes, who approaches Delgado for help early on in the film. Bridget, portrayed with depth and grace by a supporting actress who truly brings her character to life, has suffered unimaginable loss. Both her sons became casualties of their proximity to organized crime, one disappeared without a trace, presumably killed by mobsters, while the other, who tried to turn his life around by working as an informant, was brutally murdered outside a strip club in a mob-related hit. Bridget serves as a symbol of the collateral damage caused by systemic corruption. Her scenes with Delgado allow the movie to delve into themes of parental grief, cycles of violence, and the elusive nature of closure. The film's visual and auditory design also enhances its storytelling. For instance, whenever Delgado reflects on his past, the screen becomes desaturated, and a low ambient hum underscores the weight of his memories. In contrast, scenes depicting Peretti's operations feature stark, fluorescent lighting that emphasizes the cold, mechanical efficiency of his criminal enterprise. One particularly harrowing sequence involves Delgado visiting a police precinct known to be under Peretti's thumb. The oppressive silence and the subtle glances exchanged among officers create an atmosphere of suffocating paranoia. As the third act arrives, the movie builds to a series of climactic confrontations. Delgado is ambushed in his home by a group of police officers loyal to Peretti. The sequence is both intense and emotionally charged, as Delgado uses his wits and knowledge of police procedures to survive the attack. Meanwhile, Captain Briggs orchestrates a daring raid on one of Peretti's illicit gambling dens, hoping to catch him and his associates red-handed. However, the operation goes awry when it becomes clear that someone within her task force has leaked the plan. The ensuing gunfight is chaotic and visceral, further blending the lines between lawful and unlawful violence. The film crescendos with a harrowing standoff between Delgado and Peretti. Delgado, armed with a recording device and evidence he has painstakingly gathered over the years, confronts the crime boss in a secluded location. The dialogue in this scene crackles with tension as both characters lay their cards on the table. Peretti attempts to justify his actions, claiming that he has merely exploited opportunities created by a broken system. Delgado counters by pointing out the human cost of Peretti's greed, citing Bridget Hughes and his own family as examples. The encounter ends in violence, with Delgado fatally wounding Peretti in a moment that feels both cathartic and tragic. Delgado's actions raise questions about whether justice can ever truly be served in a system that is so deeply flawed. The ending of Mob Cops is deliberately ambiguous, leaving viewers to grapple with its moral complexities. Delgado turns himself in to Captain Briggs, handing over the recording of his conversation with Peretti along with additional evidence implicating dozens of officers. While Briggs promises to take action, the final scenes suggest that true accountability may be elusive. As Delgado sits alone in a holding cell, the camera lingers on his face, capturing a mix of relief and despair. The film closes with a flashback to a younger Delgado watching his father take money from a mobster, a moment that underscores the enduring influence of corruption and the difficulty of breaking free from its grasp. Thematically, Mob Cops echoes classic crime dramas like Serpico and The Departed while carving out its own niche with its focus on multigenerational trauma and the institutional nature of corruption. The film asks difficult questions about loyalty, morality, and the cost of doing the right thing. Its exploration of systemic issues resonates beyond the world of organized crime, making it a timely and thought-provoking piece of cinema. In terms of symbolism, the recurring motif of a knife cutting through meat serves as a metaphor for the choices the characters must make, slicing between right and wrong, survival and integrity. Foreshadowing is used masterfully throughout the movie, particularly in Delgado's voiceovers, which hint at the personal sacrifices and moral compromises he will have to make. The title Mob Cops itself is a clever nod to the duality of the film's central conflict, encapsulating the idea that the boundaries between mobsters and cops are more porous than society might like to believe. Ultimately, Mob Cops is a gripping and unflinching look at corruption's corrosive effects, both on individuals and institutions. Its ending, while not offering easy answers, stays true to the film's commitment to exploring the complexity of its subject matter. By allowing its characters to exist in shades of gray, the movie challenges audiences to consider their own definitions of justice and redemption. While the story concludes, the questions it raises linger long after the credits roll.